me a second.
All righty, guys. Hopefully, I've got the monitor up here so I can see if it goes haywire. Hopefully, y'all let me know. Anyway, what we're going to do, what I wanted to do today, and I talked a little bit about it, is, you know, we've always been a company that's very, we call it literate. Like we like to read because that's where you start developing your mind. You know, the best voice you can hear anything in is in your own voice, right? So I'm also a big audiobook person, but realize that's not your voice. so you have a tendency to like glance over it. Now, years and years ago, we did a training that I guess everybody can, y'all sounds good now. All right, awesome, cool. All right, awesome. So years and years ago, we actually had somebody come out that did a speed reading course and for us at one of the manager meetings. I'm sure I still got the CDs and everything somewhere around the house. It involved a lot of this, you know. You know, some of y'all do that on the dance floor, you know, said this way. That's, I'm playing all night. So anyway, so but what I found out is that I can listen to things now like 1.25 speed and 1.5 speed and actually understand quite a bit. Y'all know, it's just the mind can absorb a lot even without actually hearing every single word. And that was something we learned in the speed reading course. It wasn't necessarily seeing all the words. Think about this. You don't read each letter as you know when you're reading. You see and absorb chunks and words. We call them words, right? The same thing happens with paragraphs. Your mind can see it and absorb it. It's not just kind of retraining yourself to think differently about it, right? And so there's a lot to do with just kind of like reading the first line and the last line as you kind of scan through it. Really interesting. You should try that with reading. But so back to the reason why I'm starting this is about, I guess he's been doing this topic for since about 2012 or 13. I forget when we first had Simon Synek show up on the scene. And I don't really fully know all his background, except that he came out with this concept that called start with why. Okay. And so I'm going to try and do the video here real quick, see if that works out, if all the video, y'all will still see it choppy, okay, online. So just y'all cope with that. But let me unmute it here so we can hear some sound in the room. All right. And then I'll share this screen here. We'll see what that does to the performance of the computer. I had two choices on computers. One was this one, which I completely rebuilt last week because it had a history of like being misbehaving. So it was put in the corner on the shelf. You know, IT people do that. It's like our kids. You're misbehaving, you go on the shelf for a while. But then I got another one that is in the office now, and every time we do the sales meeting, it just likes to reboot randomly. We don't know why. So we ran this one this morning, and it worked. So hopefully this will work out great. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and bring this up with Simon Synek here, and we'll try and see if we can hear the video play as well. If not, I will share that with y'all a little bit later. So let's see, give it a chance to come up. I'm not fancy like Fitz. My stuff just don't start automatically. So there we go.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered man flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it. There's something else at play here. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, there's if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the .com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers' team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight.
Put the microphone in my pocket when that happened. All right, so let's see, make sure everybody can hear me. Can y'all hear me okay? Is that right? Megan, can you hear me okay? Can you? Bueller? Should I use the other mic? All right. I use this one because I can see this one moving up better. All right, cool. So here's good. So here's the thing about that story, right? 2 great examples: Apple Computer and the Wright brothers. And you know, I love History Channel. Y'all come around my house, that's pretty much what you're going to find. We've been getting into, you know, life below zero, not 5 below zero, as we were joking one day. That's a store, 5 below. But you know, watching people do amazing things that I will never ever want to do. Right? Life below zero. You should go watch that. Unless you're that kind of person, you're fine. But when we start, you know, thinking about Apple, I remember when Apple was in a state where, you know, because I've did 21 years in IT, right? So Apple was pretty much on its way out. Like, we had some guys doing day trading in the office, and they said, you know, I don't know about this Apple thing, you know, and because it was like, I want to say it was like $11 or less at that point and going down. And yet they were able to turn it around. And like he says, it wasn't so much what, like, okay, like, what do? We represent life insurance companies. That's sexy. Yeah. Whew. How do we do it? You know, we call people up, you know, and a lot of y'all, no one in this room or on this call, but a lot of people, right, call them up and go, I want to sell some insurance to you, right? That's not too sexy, right? But why is that important? You know, death claims, where the money actually goes into somebody's hands because somebody went to someone's home and helped the client decide that life insurance was important, right? Their why, that their family would have a house, that their kids would have a college education, right? That all these things that in the absence of the breadwinner were going to continue, right? You know, we talk a lot about retirement and stuff like that too. What's the why? Now, he talks about in the context of and here's the other thing about the Wright brothers, right? And the other guy who I just forgot his name already. You'll see how that works, right? Y'all go look him up. It's in the history books, I'm sure. But that guy, smart, well-funded. Nobody knows him now. Everybody knows the Wright brothers, who had no college educations, no nothing. It's not about how brilliant you are and what we do. You know, it's about your passion for what we do. You can overcome a lot of things with understanding why we do life insurance, why that's important for people. And as we go into the health and Medicare sales, oh my God, I just want to, y'all don't know. I mean, well, maybe y'all do. I mean, people who don't have insurance at all, like health insurance at all, the bills that they get stacked up, that totally devastates a family, and so, understanding all those things is important. Okay. So I want y'all to think about that. Guy's name is Simon Synek. You can go just go out and Google, start with why, and you will find a lot of good things. And that's kind of what I wanted to impart upon y'all today is really get in touch with your own why. They talk about corporations like Apple having this big why and identity, but it also goes all the way down to the person at the front desk. You understand? They're in it, right? And so it's the same thing. You are your own company. Be in it. Be the purveyor of the why. Now, we've been juggling a lot of things here today, so I'm going to continue on here with the PowerPoint. I think that's still going good. Megan, you're connected in, right? Can you see the PowerPoint good? All right. Or well, English majors, leave me alone. I grew up in Louisiana. So let's talk about the sales process real quick, and then I'm going to have the experts in it, from Michelle, Jonathan, and Megan, and Katie, and Jeff are going to come in and kind of help us steer this along. But here's the basics. The basics of the sales process. There you go. The basics of the sales process is this, right? It is you need people to talk to, right? You need people to talk to. And that doesn't matter if it's your friends, your family, people at Walmart, people at the gas station, people that have responded to ads for leads, referrals from clients. You just need people to talk to, right? That's the raw material. We provide you with the carriers and all the opportunity to be shared with them. But if we have no one to share it with, we're missing something, right? So that's really one of the more important things. You need people to talk to. You have to set an appointment. I would love to tell you that this is kind of stuff that you're just standing on a street corner, like lemonade, and somebody walks up and says, I want some insurance. You go, great, sign here. You take a few dollars and you're done, right? But no, there's questions. You got to set an appointment. You got to be able to go sit down with them. And that can be one of those things that a lot of people go like, oh my God, this is probably one of the hardest things we do. I'm like, it's not, but it is, because that's where you gain access to the potential client. You're not going to sell everybody, trust me. No possible way. You're not going to connect with everybody. You're going to find somebody who walks in day and a half after you and makes the sale to that client, and you couldn't. And you're like, I am good. What's wrong? Don't think about that. Go on to the next one, right? But that's the process. Going to talk about setting the appointment. So setting the appointment means I'm going to sit down with you. Then there's the sitting of the appointment where you actually are in the appointment, right? So setting the appointment is about the phone script and the script that you use, the words, the guides that help you get to the appointment. And then the sit is what do you do when you're actually in the appointment? What's your mission? Now, we've got a thing called an ATM that has some structure to it, and we're not going to go dive into that today. Okay, that's going to probably be another webinar little deal we're going to do. But you got to think about what are the things you're trying to accomplish while you're sitting there, and go about accomplishing that. Does that make sense? You want to make sure you're getting the sale done. You got to take an application. I got to tell you this. This is very important. Okay. Don't go sit an appointment, spend 2 hours talking to somebody, and walk out and forget to take an application. It happens. I've been in a house, personally, 5 minutes. The guy said I had to go. And I've been in a house 3 hours. And if I ever walked out of the house without an application, Michelle would insist that I go back in. She's nice to a lot of people, but hey, here's the good news. If you ever think that Michelle's being really mean to me right now, that's a good sign. Okay, she's in your why. But you got to learn to take the application. Now, today, in years past, we used to carry suitcases of paper when we traveled to locations. We'd find Kinkos, which many of y'all don't know about anymore because they're now FedEx stores, right? But we would find Kinkos and start making copies of apps. And then I get a call from Michelle going, why'd you spend so much money making copies of apps? I'm like, because I messed it up. Anyway, it's a long story. But nowadays, you can do, I speak nothing but truths here. Nowadays, you can take it electronically, okay? There's a lot of things you have to do electronically. And my good friend Betty will tell you, sometimes that ain't so easy. Even Michelle, to this day, goes, I could show you all the slacks of, come here, Mike, come here. Mike, come see, right? That there are going to be times when technology will be defeating you. Don't get undefeated. All right, don't get defeated. All right, I mean, you want to become undefeated. Just do what everybody else does. Crazy technology, I don't know. We're gonna have to call somebody, figure it out. And just be honest with people. Worst case, I may have to go get this thing fixed and come call you back so we can get it completed. Okay, there's a lot of ways you can handle that process without losing the sale. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of opportunity for that, but we've got to get you to take the application. You have to issue the business. Now, this is probably the part that, and I'm doing a lot of steps here, but I want y'all to understand these are all the real mechanical steps, and Morgan will appreciate this. Morgan is our staff member. We call her our chief of compensation because she's the one that makes sure that we get paid personally, and she works. If you're underneath us, because we're working to get paid personally, that means you get paid as a side effect, okay? Because we make a little bit of money when your policies get issued. But you got to get the business issued. And what does that mean? Okay, first off, people lie. They're going to tell you things like, oh, I forgot I took that medicine, or I thought you weren't going to find it, right? Or people have doctor's records that are wrong, okay? They don't get doctor's records on every application, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes you misspell a name. Sometimes you got a lot of things going on that are just, you missing a digit. Their bank account information is wrong. Their bank was empty that day. You got to do all these things to get it issued and in place. And you go, why is that important? Because no one's covered until a policy is in force and in place. Does that make sense? In other words, they're not permitted to die until you get that done, okay? Right? You have to get that done. That's an important part. And then finally, and this is something we've gotten really good at in the last year, is the follow-up. Now, I don't mean necessarily following up, make sure they got their policy. Well, that's a great thing to do, right? But to know that it's their birthday, it's the 1-year anniversary of their policy, to know these kind of things and take actions to let them know you're thinking about them. That's where the magic comes in, is if you buy a lead, you sell it, and it gets enforced, you got paid, and nothing else happens. That's great. But if you buy a lead, you sell that person, you tell them happy birthday, you remind them that it's an annual review time frame, they give you referrals, they got their cousin, sister, brother, nephews, nieces, you are their insurance person. That's the magic. So when we talk about follow-up, that's what I mean. That should be a great thing. These are your friends that you ain't seen in a long time, right? You got to go back and see them. Those are the folks that text on a Sunday night going, hey, been crazy. Thank you for the New Year's Eve message. Doing things to keep in touch with people is huge, right?